Yes, people, done with your break. Now, guys, we are going to start with the GAR. So, all people pay attention. So, here we have discussed that okay, general anti-avoidance rule, that is called GAR. GAR is applicable from assessment year 1819, and whatever transaction took place before that on that GAR is not applicable. After 1819 assessment year, if there is any transaction and there is a tax avoidance, then GAR is applicable. Now, GAR is applicable when you are taking the benefit. Tax benefit is more than 3 crore rupees. So, if there is a more than 3 crore rupees tax benefit, then GAR is applicable. Tax benefit is taken from any arrangement by all the enterprise. All the enterprise means suppose there is a holding subsidiary company and all the enterprise, they are doing the transaction, and from that transaction there is a tax benefit of more than 3 crore, then GAR provision is applicable. Now here this section 95 says that our income tax department may treat any arrangement as an impermissible avoidance arrangement. But when they will treat any arrangement as an impermissible avoidance arrangement, try to understand. So here guys, section 96 talk about the impermissible avoidance arrangement. Now impermissible avoidance arrangement means an arrangement which satisfied the two conditions. First condition is the main purpose or one of the main purpose of which is to obtain the tax benefit. So here guys, main purpose or one of the main purpose is the tax benefit, means your main purpose is to take the tax benefit. That is the first point. And guys, second, out of this 5, everywhere it is written as or, means out of this 5 there is anything one. What are 5 points are? First is the suppose if any person is creating any right or obligation which are not ordinarily created between the person dealing at arm's length price, or suppose if any person result directly or indirectly in misuse or abuse the provision of act, if you abuse the provision of the act, or suppose if you entered or carried in any manner any transaction which are not ordinarily carried by the bona fide purpose, for the bona fide purpose. And if there is a lack of commercial substance, or if there is a deemed to be lack of commercial substance, so any 1 point out of this 5 point, and guys, if there is a tax benefit, so either out of this 5 there is a 1 and tax benefit, then guys GAR is applicable. Now transaction deemed to be the lack of commercial substance, here some example is given. What do you mean by the transaction deemed to be the lack of commercial substance? So guys, here some point is given. First is, suppose in any transaction, if substance of the transaction is differs significantly from its form, means substance over form, means form is Shiva's totally different and substance is totally different, means form is totally different and substance is totally different. If that is the case, then it will be treated as where in transaction there is a lack of commercial substance. This is deemed to be lack of commercial substance when your substance is totally different from the form. Example is, your transaction has been stated to be sale and lease transaction. You know that in the PGBP I have mentioned that suppose if you purchase the asset from the loss making company, profit making company purchase the asset and again it is leased back to that company. So this is just a basically, you know, that make and believe story. This is exactly here substance is totally different from the form. So why you are doing this? Because to take the tax benefit. So guys, a transaction has been stated to be sale or lease transaction, but in the substance it is only a make and believe story. So if anything, if there is a difference between substance and form, then guys it will be treated as deemed to be lack of commercial substance and you are taking the tax benefit. Tax benefit is more than 3 crore. Government will impose the GAR. Now second point. Suppose the only purpose of selection of any location of asset or transaction of asset or place of residence of any party is only to obtain the tax benefit and there is no substantially commercial purpose for the selecting such location of asset, transaction or place of residence of any party. Guys, suppose you are selecting any location of any asset or transaction for any place for any transaction or place of residence of any party only to take the tax benefit. There is no commercial there is no commercial substantial commercial purpose, but you are just selecting that place or that transaction or that asset place of that asset only to take the tax benefit. I can take an example. Okay, you know that, like Vodafone example. Vodafone was one Netherlands-based company. Now, Hong Kong-based company was Hutchison. Hutchison was holding company of Indian company, that is Hutch SR, but they were indirectly holding company because they made one company in the Mauritius. So why they made the company in the Mauritius? Only to take the tax benefit. Only to take the tax benefit. So this is GAR is applicable in that type of transaction. Answer is yes. Because the only purpose of the selection of any location of asset or transaction or place of residence of any party is only to obtain the tax benefit. So here one example is given. A transaction between A Limited of Netherlands and B Limited of Hong Kong is executed through a conduit C Limited in a tax haven. So it is a conduit entity, means a mediator entity, that is the C Limited in the tax haven. So C Limited company was incorporated in the tax haven only to take the tax benefit. So this will be treated as transaction deemed to be lack of commercial substance. Now third point, suppose in any arrangement does not significantly affect the business risk or net cash outflow of the party to that arrangement but only attribute tax benefit. Means guys, for an example, your net cash outflow or business risk is not affected, but only to take the tax benefit you are doing that type of transaction. I can take an example. Okay, suppose there is a one company called X Limited located in the tax holiday area, taken a plant and machinery on rent of 4 crore from the sister concern and given it on rent to the another sister concern for the 10 crore rupees. Now guys, for an example, what they are saying, okay, suppose there are three company. One is like X Limited, one is the Y Limited and one is the Z Limited. Now guys, suppose X Limited want to give the asset on the lease to the, or like suppose they want to sell the asset to the Z Limited at 4 crore, for an example, 4 crore. So what will happen if they sold at 4 crore, then here in case of the Y Limited, there will be a capital gain on 4 crore. But guys, they will claim the depreciation on the 4 crore only. Now what they did, they plan. There is a one entity that is called your X Limited, that is also a group company. What they did, here Y Limited sold this asset to the X Limited at 4 crore only, or given on the lease rent of the 4 crore. And guys, here X Limited is given to Z Limited on the lease rent of the 10 crore. Suppose on the rent of the 10 crore. So guys, in case of the X Limited hand, there will be a 6 crore rental income because they are paying the rent of 4 crore to the Y Limited and they are getting the 10 crore. So there will be a rent of 6 crore, but this 6 crore is a tax free because they are engaged in the business, and suppose on that business there is no tax liability, or they are they are at the tax holiday period. So in this particular case, why you are doing here, your net cash outflow or business risk is not affected, but you choose to do this transaction only to take the tax benefit. So here Z Limited will pay the rent of the 10 crore and guys, Z Limited will claim the deduction of the 10 crore. Z Limited will claim the deduction of the 10 crore. So why you are doing this transaction? Only to take the tax benefit. So here what this point says that, okay, if there is any arrangement does not significantly affect the business risk or net cash outflow of any party to the arrangement, but only attribute to the tax benefit. Like X Limited located in tax holiday area, taken a plant and machinery on the rent for the 4 crore from the sister concern only and given it on the rent to the another sister concern at 10 crore. So they taken the rent on the 4 crore and they are giving the on the rent for the 10 crore rupees. So guys, here there will be a 6 crore income, but that is tax free, and here they will claim the deduction of the 10 crore. So there is a tax directly they can also give on the rent. Why they are giving through this company? Because to take the tax benefit. So here GAR is possible. Answer is yes. Now next part. Suppose if there is any transaction and in that transaction there is a round tripping. Round tripping means like you are just round tripping the money round tripping. You heard about the round tripping. So if there is a round tripping and which include any arrangement in which through series of the transaction. So through series of the transaction, there is a round tripping. And guys, through the series of transaction, fund are transfer among the parties. Fund are transfer amongst the parties. And such transaction have no substantial or commercial purpose other than obtaining tax benefit. Just to obtain the tax benefit, what you are doing? You are doing the round tripping. I can take an example. Okay, suppose for an example, there is a one company, name is a X Limited. There is a one company, name is a Y Limited. Now guys, suppose this X Limited company is a profit making company. this is the profit making company, and Y Limited is a loss making company. Suppose Y Limited needs some money. Y Limited can take that money from the bank, but what happened here? X Limited taken the loan from the bank. Here X Limited taken a loan from the bank, and guys, suppose X Limited taken the loan on the 19 July 2023 of the 5 crore from the bank at the rate 15% interest. And suppose that loan is just given to Y Limited without any interest. Means here X Limited just pass on that loan to the Y Limited without any interest, means there is no interest. So can I say that here X Limited is a profit making company, they have taken the asset on the loan. So they have taken the loan, and on that loan there will be an interest of the 15% on the 5 crore. They will claim the deduction and they will save the taxes. So this is called your round tripping. Means guys, you are just like round trip the money. You are just, rotating the money. So here, like directly from bank, Y Limited can take the loan now, but Y Limited is loss making company. There is no need of any interest deduction and all. So what X Limited is doing? X Limited is taking the loan from the bank. They claim the interest deduction, and guys, that same money is routed to the Y Limited free of without interest. Free of interest, without interest, that money is routed to the Y Limited. Y Limited is a loss making company. So here what this point says, try to understand. First point, a group company in profit obtain a loan from market and give the loan to the sister concern interest free and claim it to be for the business purpose. You are saying that it is for the business purpose, but you have just routed that money to the Y Limited. Now guys, it is irrelevant that. It is irrelevant. Now what are the irrelevant? First is, fund involved in the round trip financing can be traced to any fund transferred or received. Means direct nexus is not required. As well as the time or sequence in which funds are transferred, that is also not required. As well as the manner or mode in which funds are transferred or received, that is also not required. So what I am saying that, okay guys, here in the round tripping, your direct nexus is not required. Direct nexus is not required. It means there may be possibility now. Okay, suppose they took the loan, means X Limited took the loan from bank of the 5 crore and they use this 5 crore in their business. But guys, out of their own saving, they have given the 5 crore to Y Limited. So here direct nexus is not there. Direct nexus is not there because you have taken the loan of 5 crore from the bank and you have used that money in your business. This company will say that we have used that money in our business. That money we have used in our business. So they have used that money in their business. They have used that money in their business. And guys, their own money they have given to the Y Limited. So here they are saying that direct nexus is not there. Guys, direct nexus is irrelevant. Then also GAR can be imposed because there is a lack of commercial substance. Second is time and sequence is also not required. There may be possibility, okay guys, on the 19 July 2023, they have taken the loan. But suppose before that they have given the money to the Y Limited, means suppose on the 15 July 2023 they have given the money to the Y Limited. So you will say that sir, time and sequence is not matching now. First, if they have taken the loan and given the loan, then only this is treated as round tripping. No guys, here time and sequence is not required. As well as the manner and mode is also not required. Manner and mode means suppose you have taken the loan by way of the by way of the cash loan you have taken the loan, and suppose you have given given through any other instrument. So manner is also not required. Suppose you have given the money through the debenture or any other mode and you have taken the loan, so that is also not required. Suppose they have issued any instrument, so manner is also not required. But if there is a round tripping now, then it will be treated as the transaction is having the deemed to be lack of commercial substance. Here, second example. Suppose a company X Limited purchase the shares of the group company from the another group company at the higher value and sell it to the another group company at the low value. This result in the loss to the X Limited. This transaction can be a vice versa. So this is also called as the round tripping. So what people are doing, suppose for an example, there are three companies. There is a one company called X Limited. There is a one company called Y Limited. There is a one company called Z Limited. Now there is a shares of Z Limited with the X Limited. Now they want to sell the share. But suppose for an example here there is a one company that is intermediary company, their group company, they want the losses. So what they will do? Suppose if this company want the losses, then what they will do, or suppose that company want the profit, then what they will do? Suppose they sold the share to this company, group company, at the 5 crore rupees. And guys, suppose they need the losses, then they will sell that share to the another group company at very low price. Suppose they are having the share of any company, Reliance. Suppose they want to sell the share. So here guys, they will not directly sell, they will sell through the group company. So if any group company wants the profit or any group company wants the loss, then they can compensate that. Means suppose this company wants the profit, they are having some losses to set up, they want the profit. So what they will do, suppose they will purchase at 5 crore rupees and they will sold at 10 crore, so there is a 5 crore rupees profit. Or guys, suppose they want the losses, then what they will do, okay, here Y Limited will purchase at 5 crore and they will sell to the Z Limited at 1 crore, so they will book the losses of the 4 crore and they will set up their profit. So if this type of transaction are there, then also it will be treated as the lack of commercial substance. Now next part, suppose a group company in a profit obtain a loan from the market, uses the loan for their business and given the loan to the sister concern out of the own fund. I already mentioned that direct nexus is not relevant. Now guys, suppose you are accommodating any party in the transaction only to take the tax benefit. There is no any other point, just you are accommodating any party to just take the tax benefit. So here an accommodating party, that is a party, the main reason for whose participation is to obtain the directly indirectly tax benefit, and it is irrelevant that accommodating party is your associated person or not. Now you are accommodating any party in the transaction only to take the tax benefit. Why? How? There is one example, try to understand. Suppose A Limited sells the share of subsidiary company B Limited at lower value and book a loss because A Limited wanted a loss. So guys, here what happened, A Limited sells share to the subsidiary company B Limited because they want, and they sell at lower value because they want the loss, and B Limited transfer the share at the higher value in the market and book the profit because subsidiary company want the profit. Here B Limited is the accommodating party. Means for an example, this is the same example, try to understand what happened. There is a one company called A Limited, there is a B Limited and there is a C Limited. Suppose for an example, this A Limited is having the share of the BB Private Limited, and suppose this share they want to sell today, and suppose that's today's market value is suppose 5 crore, but they wanted the loss. They purchased the share at 5 crore, they can sell at 5 crore, but today they want the loss. So what they will do, they will sell to the sister concern at 1 crore. So here they, like you know, that they book the loss of the 4 crore because they want the loss, and B Limited will sell to the another sister concern or another person at 5 crore and they will book the profit. So here you have accommodating the B Limited only for the tax benefit. There is no any other benefit from the B Limited. Only to take the tax benefit you are accommodating any party in the transaction. So this is also treated as deemed to be lack of commercial substance. Don't worry, we will do the example, and from that questions you will be able to understand all this. Now next part. Suppose there is an element have the effect of outsourcing or cancelling each other. There may be possibility that you are doing the transaction where that effect is cancelling each other. It means example is, you know, that cross transfer in the clubbing provision. Yet suppose I transfer some asset to my brother wife and my brother is transferring some asset to my wife. So in this particular case, there is a offsetting or cancelling each other. So in this particular case also, it will be treated as the deemed to be lack of commercial substance. Now next part. Here, further it has been provided that last point, a transaction conducted through one or more person or disguise the value or location or source or ownership or control or fund. Means a share capital is invested in India by a company in Mauritius. The source of investment of Indian company is not disclosed. So guys, for an example, you just send the money through Hawala to Mauritius, and from Mauritius that company is invested in India. So here what you are doing, you are just disguising the value or location or source. Disguise means suppose you are changing the value or location or source or ownership or control of fund and all, then here it will be treated as deemed to be lack of commercial substance. So transaction conducted through one or more of the person, or you are just dislocating the value or location or source or ownership or control of fund and all, then here GAR can be imposed. And guys, always remember here further provided that has been provided, the following shall be irrelevant for deciding whether the transaction lack of commercial substance or not. what will be irrelevant? One is the period and time for which this arrangement is exist. Suppose between parties some arrangement is exist. This arrangement is exist for how long? For 3 year, 4 year, that is irrelevant. Second is fact of the payment taxes directly or indirectly under the arrangement. There may be possibility you are saying that we have paid the taxes in the foreign country now, so GAR should not be applicable. No guys, if in India there is a tax avoidance, even you have paid the taxes outside India, even you have paid, you are explaining the fact that no sir, we have paid the taxes in foreign country and all, that is irrelevant. And fact that is what is the exit rule, that is exit route, that is also irrelevant. Means including transfer of any activity, business operation is provided by the agreement. Means in agreement what is your exit route, that is also irrelevant. Now while treating the transaction as IA, means if income tax department treat any transaction as IA, then what will happen? An equity may be treated as debt or vice versa. Means income tax department may treat any equity instrument as debt instrument or debt instrument as equity instrument. Or they may treat any capital receipt as a revenue receipt or revenue receipt as a capital receipt. Or they may treat any expenditure deduction relief rebate may be recharacterized. So whatever like expenditure deduction relief rebate you have taken, that may be recharacterized. So guys, what will be the consequences of the IA? Suppose for an example, income tax department treat any transaction as a IA, then what will happen here? So consequence of the IA, pay attention. If any arrangement is declared to be IA, then consequences given in section 98. 98 says that then the consequence shall be determined in such a manner as deemed appropriate. Means income tax department will, like determine the consequences as per whatever their wish, means deemed appropriate. In the circumstances of the case, means they will check the cases and case to case basis they will determine the consequences. Circumstances of the case may result in denial of any tax benefit, means they may deny the tax benefit or benefit under the DTAA, or the impact of treating a transaction as IA may be result into the following, means they may treat like this. What they will do, there are some illustration is given. First is they may disregarding or combining or recharacterizing any step in or a part or whole of the in the IA. So what they are saying that they may disregard the transaction, combine the transaction, recharactering any step in or part in or whole of the IA, means any arrangement is there, they may disregard that arrangement, they may cancel that arrangement, they may combine the arrangement, they may recharacterizing any step in or any part or any whole or any of IA. Treating IA as of it had never been entered into and carried out, they may cancel the IA, you have never entered the arrangement. Next is they may disregarding any accommodating party or treating any accommodating party or any other party as one or the same person, means treating accommodating parties as Benami party. There may be possibility that they just remove the this accommodating party, B Limited. Suppose for an example, A Limited sold the asset at 1 crore and they are selling at 5 crore. They will say, no, there is no B Limited. So here A Limited is selling at 5 crore. So they may disregard the accommodating party only. So here what they can do. So here next part. So disregarding the accommodating party or treating the accommodating party and any other party is one or the same person. The deeming person who are connected person in relation to each other to be the one. Suppose connected person, they will be treated as one person. Like if there are connected person, they will treat that both person are one person. For the purpose of determining the tax treatment of any amount and holding concern as Benami. So here, reallocating amongst the party to the arrangement, any accrual, receipt or capital or revenue nature, they can reallocate. Expenditure, deduction or relief or rebate. So they may reallocate amongst the party any accrual or receipt or capital or revenue nature or any expenditure, deduction, relief, rebate, they may reallocate. As well as they may treat the place of resident of any party of the arrangement. Guys, suppose place of you are non-resident, then there may be possibility they may treat you as a resident. Situs of the asset of a transaction or any place other than the place of resident, location of the asset or location of the transaction as provided under the agreement. So guys, they may treat that other place. Suppose transaction took place in Mauritius, they may treat that no, this transaction is took place in India only. They have that type of power. as well as considering or looking through any arrangement by disregarding any corporate structure, whatever your holding subsidiary structure, they may disregard that. No, this corporate structure is like, they may disregard. So lifting of the corporate will or disregarding the alter ego, that is one like word of the law, alter ego, that is called your lifting of the corporate will only. Now some important definition is given. Now there is no need to remember the definition. Arrangement means any arrangement, whole or part or step in any transaction, operation, scheme, agreement, understanding. It covered transaction whether enforceable or not. Now associated person means for individual, relative given in section 56(2)(10), and for HUF and all relative given in section 48(2) of the PGBP. Now you are taking tax benefit. Tax benefit, how you are taking tax benefit? Either reducing avoidance, deferral of tax under the domestic tax law or DTAA, means under DTAA or under domestic law, you reducing the tax, avoidance the tax, or increasing the refund, or reducing the total income, or increase the losses. And party also cover the permanent establishment. Directly check the question. We will do the question, and from question you will able to understand certain things. Okay, but that, guys, don't worry about that. From this topic you will get the question only. And out of this 10 question, I think we have covered the 10 questions related to GAR. Yeah, there are 10 questions. One question will be in your examination. So pay attention. Directly check the question number 1, 2, 3, 4 already done. Check the question number 5. 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 All people, check the question number 5. Check the question number 5. Just check the question number 5. So question number 5 says that, try to understand. Try to understand, very interesting part. A Global Architect Inc., a company incorporated in country F1. So there is a one country F1, and in country F1 there is a one company, that is Global Architect Inc. is a company. So there is a one F1 country, and in F1 country there is a one company is incorporated, name is a Global Inc. Now what happened? It engaged in the business of the providing architectural design service all over the world. So they are providing architectural design service all over the world. It received an offer from the Lovely Resorts Private Limited, an Indian company, for design and development of the resort all over the India. So there is one Indian company, name is a Lovely Resorts Private Limited, Indian company. They have given one order for designing purpose to that company. That company is located in F1 country. Now what happened? India F1 tax treaty provide that architectural service are the technical service. Now guys, in India and F1 country, DTAA, both country have the DTAA, and that DTAA says that this architectural service will be treated as a technical service, and payment for the same to the company may be taxed in India. So whatever the payment is made to that company, it will be taxable in India. So as per the India and F1 country DTAA, it should be taxable in India. But there is one exception. However, if such professional service are provided by the firm or individual, then it will not be taxable. Means in case of the firm or individual is providing this service, then it will be taxable. Then payment for such service are taxable only if the firm has a fixed base in India or stay of partner or employee in India exceed 180 days. So guys, if this type of service is provided by any partnership firm, then as per the DTAA between India and F1 country, it will not be taxable in India. But it will be taxable in India if they are having the fixed base in India, as well as their partner or employee stay in India for the more than 180 days. That is given in the like DTAA. Now what happened? Messrs Global Architect Inc. form a partnership firm with the third party, a director of the company. So what happened? They know that because earlier they were a company. Now they know that if company will provide the service in India to that Lovely Resort, then income will be taxable in India. So what they are doing, you know that they are form one partnership firm. Here they have formed one partnership firm. So partnership firm they have formed in the F1 country only. And guys, what they are doing, and one partner is a like director. They made one partner is director and one partner is that company itself. having only a nominal share in the F1 and the director is having many like only nominal share in the that partnership firm. The firm enter into the agreement to carry out the service in India. The company seconded its trained manpower to the firm. Means employee also, like this company sent the all employee to the firm and this firm is providing now service in India. Thus, the partnership firm claim the treaty benefit and no tax has been paid in India. Can such arrangement be examined under the GAR? Is GAR is applicable or not? Now, GAR is applicable or not? There are two conditions. First condition is is there is any tax benefit is taken? Answer is yes. In India, tax benefit is taken. Shiva, tax benefit is taken. They have taken the tax benefit because if directly they are doing through the company, then India they have to pay the tax. But now they have formed the partnership firm and through partnership firm they are doing this activity. Now is GAR is invoked or not? So first is tax benefit is there. Answer is yes. Now question is that second, they have like in form one partnership firm. Is there is a need of that partnership firm? Answer is no. Means there is a tax benefit. And second point is, guys, in this particular case there is no commercial necessary to form any partnership firm. Is any commercial decision is changed? Answer is no. Employee also they have like company employees used in the partnership firm. So guys, they are doing this type of arrangement only to take the tax benefit. So GAR is possible. Answer is yes. Here GAR is possible. So what answer says that? Pay attention. It is the obvious that there is no commercial necessity to create the separate firm. There is no commercial necessity to create the separate firm. Except to obtain the tax benefit, the firm was only on the paper, as the manpower was also drawn from the company. The firm did not have any commercial substance. Moreover, it is a case of treaty abuse. You are using the treaty, you are misusing the treaty. Hence, GAR may be invoked to disregard the firm. They will disregard the firm and tax payment on the architectural service as fees for technical service. However, the rate of tax on such payment shall be applicable under the treaty if more beneficial. So whatever, like in treaty, F1 treaty and India treaty, whatever tax rate is given, that tax rate will be applicable, but they will disregard the partnership firm because there is no need of any commercial substance. There is no need of any commercial, there is lack of commercial substance of in this particular case. GAR is possible. Answer is yes. Now question number 6. Try to understand what question number 6 is. Question number 6. What question number 6 is? Try to understand. A foreign bank, there is a foreign bank's J's branch in India. Now guys, what happened? There is a one foreign bank. This is the foreign bank. Foreign bank name is a J. They have branch in India. They have branch in India. Foreign bank, they have the branch in India. Now what happened? Foreign bank J branch in India, they arrange the loan for Indian borrower from the another branch of the J located in third country. Now guys, in India there is a borrower. Suppose there is a one company name is a KK Limited. Now J Bank Limited is a one foreign bank. They are having the branch in India. Now there is a KK Limited one company, and KK Limited need the loan from the J Bank Limited. So they have an option that they can give the loan from the Indian branch only. But what they did, suppose they have given the loan from one foreign branch, another branch in foreign. So they have arranged the loan from this branch, and this branch has given the loan to the Indian company. Now guys, suppose in hands of that company, that foreign branch, this interest income is not taxable. But suppose if loan is given by the Indian branch, then in hands of Indian branch, that interest income will be taxable. Because here KK Limited wants the loan, and KK Limited wants the loan. That loan is given by the foreign branch, not Indian branch, and that company is the same. That company having the various branch, they are arranging the loan from the foreign branch only to take the tax benefit. So here GAR is possible. Answer is yes. So try to understand. Again, read it. A foreign bank J Limited branch in India arrange the loan for the Indian borrower from the another branch of the J located in third country. The loan is later assigned to the J subsidiary in the country F3. The India and F3 treaty provide no source based withholding tax and interest on the bank. Means what happened, suppose this branch is located in this country, and guys, India and that country have the like arrangement. Okay, suppose in India source based taxation is not there, so suppose interest is received by this branch, then tax is not applicable in India. There is no withholding tax, there is no TDS and all. So here, out of the bona fide business, there is a result in no withholding tax on interest payable out of India. So guys, here what happened, okay, there is a one bank is having the branch in India also, they are having the branch in foreign. Now they know that if any Indian branch gives the loan then there will be a TDS as well as the tax payable in India. But guys, when this foreign branch is giving the loan to the KK Limited, then there is no withholding tax, because India DTAA and foreign DTAA says that it will not be required to deduct the TDS in India, or they are not required to pay any tax in India. So in this particular case, this transaction is only to take the tax benefit now. This transaction is only to take the tax benefit. So is GAR is possible? Answer is yes. Here GAR is possible. So what this point says that, try to understand. There is a treaty abuse you are doing. The above arrangement of finalizing the loan from one country and assign it to another country has been made mainly to avoid withholding tax provision, on the basis that there is no withholding provision of interest earned by F3 resident under the India F3 treaty. There is a tainted element being abuse of the treaty, because you are abusing the law, you are abusing the treaty, and thus may be treated as the impermissible avoidance arrangement. The revenue may invoke the GAR with regards to this arrangement. Income tax department may invoke the GAR. Question number 7 we already did. Now question number 9. Now guys, before starting the question number 8. Before starting the question number 8, what question number 8 says that I will explain you with the help of one example. Now guys, suppose there is a one country, that country is a X, and there is a India. Now India and X country have one arrangement. And that arrangement is like DTAA, and in DTAA they mention that country X resident, if that person is earning any capital gain in India, then in India there is required to pay the tax only if that country person in India holding the 10% or more equity shareholding in that company. So in simple word, India and country X DTAA is there, and in DTAA it is mentioned that country X and India DTAA, there is a double taxation avoidance agreement between country X and India, and that DTAA says that suppose from country X, if any person is invested in the Indian share market or Indian company, then in India capital gain will be taxable only. If that person is holding 10% or more share, then only capital gain is applicable in India. Otherwise there is no need to pay the capital gain. Now guys, what happened? Suppose from foreign there was one company, name was FCO. FCO was one company from the country X. Now they want to invest, suppose 19% in Indian company. They want to invest 19% in Indian company. So they have invested 19% in Indian company. So now there will be a tax, because they are holding the 10% or more equity shareholding. So if they sold their share, then they need to pay the tax in India. Now what they plan, how they did, try to understand. So what F company did, F company just created 200% subsidiary company. F company just created 200% subsidiary company. One is the, suppose like Z Limited, and one is the Q Limited, and both are 100% subsidiary company. And guys, this both 100%, they are not doing any activity, they just invested in the Indian company, and both company invested 9.5% and 9.5%. So here guys, 9.5% is invested by this company as well as this company. Now as per the DTAA, there is no need to pay the tax. As per the DTAA, there is no need to pay the tax. So question is that, is here GAR can be imposed or not? Answer is yes. Because one is, why you did this arrangement? Only to take the treaty benefit, tax benefit. And second is, guys, if there is a tainted element, answer is yes. You are abusing you are like abuse or misuse the treaty. You misuse the treaty, because what was the need to create two subsidiary, 100% subsidiary company only to take the tax benefit? There is no any other commercial substance. There is no any commercial need to incorporate this two new 100% like subsidiary only to take the tax benefit in India. So is GAR is possible? Answer is yes. Here GAR is possible. Now guys, just do one thing, just read the question number 8 as well as the question number 9. Question number 9 is related to the round tripping. Round tripping means suppose money is taken by one company and that money is taken by the foreign company, and again foreign company is giving the loan to the Indian company. So this type of transaction, that is called your round tripping. So just read the question number 8 as well as the question number 9 along with the solution. Question number 10 I will explain you. Just check the question number 8 and question number 9. Done, people? Just say done. If you have completed, then just say done. Say done. Done? Yes, sir, done. Now just check the question number 10. Little bit difficult topic, na? Huh? Still, it is a developing topic. Till now, you know that in the GAR, they have not picked any case. Till now, it is developing topic. Yes, question number 10. Question number 10. What this question says, try to understand. Huh? What this question says, try to understand. Y Limited is a company in country C1. So Y Limited is one company and that company is in country C1. So guys, here I am drawing. I just draw the situation. Okay, there is a one country, that is the C1 country, and in C1 country there is a Y Limited one company. Y Limited, one company in the C1. Now what happened next? It is a non-resident in India. So non-resident in India, so C1 country, so Y Limited is basically non-resident in India. Now what happened? It is non-resident in India. Z Limited is a company resident in India. In India, there is a one company. In India, there is a one company that is name is a Z Limited. And Z Limited is a resident company in India. Now guys, what happened? A Limited is company incorporated in the F1 country. So in F1 country, they have incorporated one company, name is a Limited, and it is a 100% subsidiary company of Y Limited. So guys, here what happened? So there is a, in the F1 country, there is a F1 country, and in F1 country, there is a one company. That company name is a, I think, A Limited, and this A Limited is basically 100% subsidiary company of this company, Y Limited. So Y Limited 100%, Y Limited hold 100% share of the A Limited. Okay. Now what happened next? A Limited and Z Limited form a joint venture company in the X Limited. Joint venture company name is X Limited in India after the date of commencement of the GAR provision, and there is no other activity of A Limited. Now guys, what happened? Here this A Limited and this Z Limited, they have formed one joint venture company in India. They have formed one joint venture company in India in the name of the X Limited. So basically in India, X Limited is one JV company, that is joint venture company. So in India, there is a joint venture company, and that JV company is basically X Limited. Now A Limited don't have any other activity. They just invested, like here Y Limited invested 100% in the A Limited, and A Limited invested in the X Limited. A Limited is like located in F1 country and Y Limited is located in C1 country. Now what happened next? Try to understand. The India and F1 tax treaty provide for non-taxation of capital gain in the source country, and country F1 charge no capital gain tax on its domestic law. Now guys, what happened? This F1 country and India DTAA, because this joint venture is in India. So India and F1 country, this DTAA says that there is no source-based taxation in India. Means in both the country, source-based taxation is not applicable. It means in a country in which that asset is located, that country will not charge any tax. So for an example guys, here suppose this A Limited, the A Limited invested in the X Limited. So they purchased the shares of the X Limited. So suppose they sold the share of the X Limited. Now A Limited sold the share of the X Limited, then there is no need to pay any tax in India as well as the F1 country. Now what happened next? A Limited is also designated as permitted transferee of the Y Limited. So basically A Limited is a permitted transferee of the Y Limited. Now what are the permitted transferee of the Y Limited? It means permitted transferee means though the share are held by the A Limited, all the right of the voting, management, right to sale, etc., with the Y Limited. So basically guys, like even this X Limited share are held by A Limited, but all voting power is with the Y Limited. All control is with the Y Limited, because Y Limited is holding 100% share. Now, as per the joint venture agreement, 49% of X Limited equity is allotted to the A Limited, and 51% is allotted to the Z Limited. So guys, here this A Limited hold the 49% equity, and guys, this Indian company hold the 51% equity in this X Limited. Now what happened? The shares of the X Limited held by A Limited are sold to the C Limited, a company connected to the Z Limited group only. Now guys, what happened? Like A Limited sold the share of the X Limited, they sold the share. Means here A Limited sold the share, there will not be any capital gain in India. There will not be any capital gain in India, and they sold the share to the any company related to the Z Limited only. So here guys, as per the tax treaty with the country F1, capital gain arising to the A Limited are not taxable in India. As per the India and country C1 tax treaty, capital gain is chargeable to tax in the source country. Can the GAR is invoked to deny the treaty benefit or not? Guys, here C1 country and India DTAA says that in India tax should be paid if they directly invested in India. But what happened? They have not directly invested in India. They created one company in the F1 country only to take the treaty benefit. Only to take the treaty benefit. Guys, and 100% share are held by this company. 100% investment made by this company, and this company is investing in Indian joint venture directly. If they directly invested in Indian company, na, then guys, in India there was a tax. But now, due to the F1 country and India DTAA, there is no tax in India. So question is that, is they are misusing the treaty or not? Answer is yes. They misuse the treaty, they abuse the treaty, and guys, only to take the tax benefit. There is no commercial substance. There is no commercial need of this. They are doing this only to take the tax benefit. So lawmaker says that GAR is possible. Answer is yes. Here GAR is possible. Just read the answer of this question. Just read the answer of this question. Just read the answer of this question. Yes, people, done? Sit done. Done, people, done? Yes, sir. Now, guys, there is a one procedural part. Yes, sir, how they will treat that arrangement as impermissible avoidance arrangement. There is a procedural part. There is a one section, 144BA section. And guys, this 144BA section is from the assessment procedure topic. I always teach this section with the GAR only, but this is the assessment procedure section, 144BA. Now, what this section says that? This section says that power to treat the transaction as IAA procedural provision. Guys, in this section, wherever it is mentioned PC or C, it means commissioner or principal commissioner, means either CIT or PCIT. So wherever PC or C is mentioned, C means commissioner, that is CIT, and PC means principal CIT. So principal CIT and CIT. Wherever AP word is used, it means approving panel. Now, what is the meaning of approving panel? I will explain you here. Wherever AO is mentioned, it means assessing officer, or wherever IAA is mentioned, it is an impermissible avoidance agreement or impermissible avoidance arrangement basically. Now, guys, approving panel, because department themselves, they will not treat any transaction as IAA or any arrangement as IAA. Guys, for that purpose, there is an approving panel in India. Now, approving panel will decide that is that transaction is a IAA or not. Means GAR should be imposed or not imposed. That will be decided by the approving panel. Now, who will constitute this approving panel? So, try to understand approving panel. So, guys, approving panel constitution is central government may constitute one or more approving panel. So here this power is with the central government. Central government may constitute one or more approving panel. Now composition in every approving panel, there will be consist of the 3 judges, including the chairperson. So there will be a chairman, means chairperson, as well as the 2 members. So in simple word, there will be a 3 judges in the approving panel. Now who will be the chairman? So guys, chairman shall be the person who is or has been a judge of the High Court. So any either current judge or any who was the judge of the High Court, means any retired judge of the High Court will be treated as your chairman. So chairman will be appointed. Chairman shall be the person who is or has been judge of a High Court. Second is, one member shall be the member of the IRS. One member shall be the member of IRS not below the rank of the PCCIT or CCIT. Means one member will be the member of Indian Revenue Service and not below the rank of the CCIT or PCCIT, that is top level officer. And one member shall be the academic background or a scholar having a special knowledge of the matters such as direct taxes or business account or international trade practices and all. And guys, this will be like appointed by the central government. Central government appoint for the 1 year and may be extended from time to time for the period of maximum 3 years. So guys, these people will be appointed by the central government. They will work in the approving panel. So approving panel is basically constitute the 3 judges. One will be the chairman. Chairman will be a high court judge. One will be the IRS officer not below the rank of the CCIT or PCCIT, and one will be the academician or any scholar having the special knowledge of the matter such as direct tax, business account or international trade practices, etc., will be appointed by the government, and their tenure will be of the 1 year. And guys, it may be extended from time to time, but maximum period will be the 3 years. Done. Now how they will work, how like this procedure will follow, try to understand. So guys, once what happened, suppose assessing officer was doing the assessment. When assessing officer was doing the assessment, that time assessing officer realized that oh, there should be impermissible avoidance arrangement. So what AO will do, try to understand. So here AO make the reference to the commissioner or principal commissioner at any stage of the assessment or reassessment proceeding on the basis of the material or evidences available to declare an arrangement as IAA and determine its consequences. So here assessing officer was doing the assessment. So during the assessment, assessing officer realized that oh, that should be treated as IAA. So what he will do, he will refer this case to the CIT or PCIT. So he will ask his bosses, he will refer this case to the bosses. Okay, sir, in this case, there should be an impermissible avoidance arrangement. Assessee did some tax avoidance here. So what they will do? Here bosses, that is commissioner or principal commissioner, issue a notice to the assessee for submitting an objection and providing an opportunity of being heard within the period not exceeding the 60 days. So here guys, what will happen? The commissioner or principal commissioner will issue the notice to the assessee for submitting the objection. Here he will ask assessee can file the objection and providing the opportunity of being heard within the period not exceeding the 60 days. So they will give the time of maximum 60 days and they will ask that within the 60 days, just reply that. So here they are providing the opportunity of being heard to the assessee. Now, so what happened here? First, assessing officer realized that the arrangement should be impermissible avoidance arrangement. Assessing officer transfer case to the commissioner or principal commissioner. Now principal commissioner will give the opportunity of being heard to the assessee. They will give you maximum 60 days time. You have to reply. Now if assessee reply or not reply, then what will happen? Suppose if assessee replied. If assessee object to the proposed action, means assessee reply, okay sir, in my case GAR should not be imposed, sir. Why sir you are imposing the GAR and all, sir? Please sir, don't do that, sir. I reply, you don't worry, we not did anything like bad, we have followed law and all, sir. Suppose he replied. If assessee object to the proposed action and if commissioner or principal commissioner is satisfied with the explanation of assessee, if they are satisfied, okay, no problem, don't, chill out, okay, we are satisfied with your explanation, then the commissioner or principal commissioner, they will ask assessing officer AO, okay, don't worry, you just made the order and don't worry, GAR, there is no need to invoke the GAR. So here principal commissioner to communicate the same to the AO by order in writing with the copy of assessee, copy to the assessee. So they will write to the AO, okay, they will give the reason also, okay, there is no need to invoke the GAR. But suppose if commissioner or principal commissioner not satisfied with the explanation of the assessee, then what they will do? Here principal commissioner or commissioner to make the reference to the approving panel for declaring the arrangement as IAA. Means here commissioner don't have the power to declare as IAA. When assessee reply, then here he has to send the case to the approving panel only, and that approving panel, that 3 judges will decide. So that 3 judges in the approving panel, they will decide that your transaction or arrangement will be covered in the GAR or not. So here approving panel to give an opportunity of being heard to the assessee. Now case is with approving panel. They will give you opportunity of being heard. For further inquiry, direct the commissioner or principal commissioner to make the such inquiry and furnish the report. Suppose they need the more inquiry, then they may ask the commissioner or principal commissioner to furnish the report. Second is call for and examine such record relating to the matter as it deemed fit. They may ask for any record and examine the record. They may require the assessee to furnish such document and evidences it may direct. So here they may ask the assessee that you should furnish some some document and all. And guys, on the basis of that, what will happen? Approving panel to issue direction for declaration as IAA, impermissible avoidance arrangement, and specifying the previous year in respect of which it is so declared within the 6 months from the end of the month in which receipt of the reference. So when they receive the reference from the CIT PCIT within the period of the 6 months from the end of that particular month, they will pass the order and they will declare that yes, it will be treated as IAA, and they will give the declaration as IA and specify the previous year in respect of which it is so declared within the 6 months from the end of the month of receipt of the reference. So when they receive the reference from that month end, within 6 months they will declare it as a IA. Now they will give the direction. Now whatever direction is given by the approving panel, that direction is binding on the assessee, as well as that direction is binding on the commissioner or principal commissioner, as well as subordinate IT authority. So whatever direction is given now, that direction is binding on the assessee as well as the department. So whatever direction is given by the approving panel, that direction are binding. Now no appeal shall lie against such direction. Against direction you cannot file any appeal. Against direction you cannot file any appeal. So against direction any appeal is not possible. So suppose approving panel is giving the direction, then against direction you cannot file any appeal. Now guys, what happened? Suppose for an example, assessee does not furnish any objection. Means one notice is sent by the CIT PCIT that we are declaring your arrangement as IA, impermissible avoidance arrangement. Assessee has not furnished any reply. If assessee not furnish any reply, any objection, then directly commissioner or principal commissioner has power that directly they issue such a direction as he deemed fit for declaring an arrangement to the IA. Means they have the power that they will declare your arrangement as IA, PC or C. It means commissioner or CIT PCIT, they will declare your arrangement as IA and they will give the direction. There is no need to follow the approving panel procedure. Approving panel procedure is possible only when assessee object. If assessee object, then there will be like approving panel. Otherwise there is no approving panel. Directly here like direction will be there and assessing officer will complete the assessment in accordance with the assessing officer will complete the proceeding in accordance with the such direction and provision of chapter 10A, that is this chapter. And guys, prior approval of commissioner or principal commissioner is required for passing the assessment order if any tax consequences has been determined in the order as per the provision of this topic. So guys, before passing the assessment order, he will take the approval from the CIT or PCIT, and only after CIT PCIT approval he will pass the order. Now guys, when with the CIT PCIT approval he has passed the order, then question is that against that order can you file the appeal or not? Answer is yes, you can file the appeal. But guys, here appeal will be filed directly to the ITAT. Appeal will be filed directly to the ITAT. Here it is mentioned that no appeal lie against the such direction. Against direction you cannot file the appeal. But guys, according to the direction, AO will made the final order, and when AO will made the final order, assessment order, against that assessment order can you file the appeal? Answer is yes, you can file the appeal. And where you will file the appeal? You will file the appeal directly at ITAT level. You will file the appeal directly at the ITAT level. ITAT means Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, where it is given. So guys, in the appeal and revision topic, it was mentioned that you will file the appeal directly at ITAT level. So if you check the appeal and revision topic, now don't worry, I will show you here. So guys, in the appeal and revision topic, this order can be appealed at ITAT level. If you remember, it is mentioned that which order can be appealed at the ITAT level. So here guys, one is the order of JC or CIT appeal. One is the order of AO passed on the basis of direction of DRP, no problem. One is the revisional order under section 263. One is the order of AO passed with the approval of CIT PCIT under section 144BA. So under section 144BA is GAR only. So according to the GAR provision, suppose CIT PCIT, after approving the CIT PCIT, if AO is passing the order, directly you can file the appeal to the ITET or any other order of this officer will be directly appeal again at the level of the ITET. So this is the completion of your topic called GAR. So this is the completion of topic GAR. In examination, like 3 marks question expecting 3 marks. In examination, there will be a 3 marks topic from the GAR. But just focused on the question only. We did the 10 question. Just do that 10 question. That's enough for you. Now, in this volume, your pending part is, I think, penalty and prosecution. Some part from assessment. And guys, tax audit and ethical compliance, I will upload lecture in the later part. Dispute resolution committee we have completed today. Penalty and prosecution is only pending. Tonnage taxation we already completed. Some remaining case laws and concepts are there. So you want to study today or tomorrow? You want to study today or tomorrow? Tell me. You want to study something today or tomorrow? At today, sir, enough, sir. Sir, it was a difficult, sir. So today you want to study or tomorrow? Everyone says, sir, tomorrow, sir, tomorrow. Okay, so no problem. Today we are stopping here because both the topic was theoretical topic and GAR is basically developing phase. Still, there may be some word you will not be able to understand or recall, or there are no sufficient example also in the market, because still till now they have not, that there is no case they have picked under the GAR. Still any arrangement is not declared as IA till now in India, but they are developing, they are checking, they are they're checking what people are doing and all. Yes, कल करेंगे इसके आगे. तो चलिए, tomorrow your lecture will be at 7:30 AM. So I will start the lecture at 7:30 AM in the morning. So I will start your lecture in the morning. Tomorrow evening there will not be any lecture. In the morning you will have the lecture 7:30 AM. And this lecture will be, I can extend approx. I will try to wind up by 11. So tomorrow we will complete whatever remaining in this book except that tax audit. Except tax audit, whatever remaining in this book, that we will complete tomorrow. Okay. So thanks a lot, people. That's enough for today from my side. See you tomorrow morning. Bye. Take care.